New Lions head coach Matt Patricia comes over from the New England Patriots to lead a team that is coming off of a 9-7 record. What will the defensive-minded Patricia bring to the table, and how will his approach help quarterback Matthew Stafford and the offensive side of the ball? We'll discuss that and more in our 2018 Detroit Lions season preview. Let's kick things off by taking a look at some of the key storylines as we go into our 4-minute offense. The Lions have a new head coach and longtime Patriots defensive coordinator Matt Patricia. As a first-time head coach, Patricia understands the task at hand: get the Lions to the playoffs consistently and ultimately through the playoffs into the Super Bowl. It may be obvious that he'd like to get those goals accomplished by any means necessary, but deep down I think he wants it to be because of their defense and their ability on offense to control the line of scrimmage. Those are two things that may have curtailed a lot of success in the Motor City prior to him getting here, and you can tell with some of the moves that they made both in the draft and in free agency, it was a priority for the 43-year-old head coach. Getting better defensively was another priority for the organization, which is why they went out and hired a defensive-minded head coach. One of Patricia's first hires was to bring in Paul Pasqualoni to run the defense, and I'm actually a Pasqualoni fan. I think he does a solid job in coaching up defense. He's a 9-year veteran of the NFL, but more famously known for his days as a college head coach back at Syracuse and UConn. Pasqualoni's NFL experience has been mainly as a defensive coordinator and a defensive line coach, and that tells you where the Lions are trying to focus their restart on that side of the ball. The last 3 years, the Lions have invested a lot in their offensive line. This past NFL draft, they took center Frank Ragnow out of Arkansas in the first round to come in and start right away at either guard or center. Ragnow, in my opinion, was definitely a first-round talent and would help strengthen a front that already features a few studs in Taylor Decker and Graham Glasgow. The hope is that TJ Lang, Decker, and Ricky Wagner can stay healthy for a full season, because they'll need all hands on deck in order to help move this ground game forward. They've also built some really good depth with Corey Robinson and 5th-round steal in this year's draft, Tyrell Crosby out of Oregon, and also Wesley Johnson, who came over from the New York Jets. Speaking of moving this ground game forward, that's another area where the Lions invested this offseason. They have some talented holdovers in Amir Abdullah, Zach Zenner, and Theo Riddick. Now, Abdullah's issues have been his ball control problems, where he's putting the ball on the turf. He has everything that you look for in a tailback and everything that you want, but he can't be trusted if he's putting the ball on the ground. Riddick is a valuable piece because of what he brings to the table as a receiver. Now, in the draft, they spent the 2nd-round pick on Auburn's tailback Kerryon Johnson, and Johnson reminds me a lot of a former Detroit Lion in James Stewart. Bit of an upright running style with a little bit of wiggle. And they also signed the Robert Ory of running backs and LeGarrette Blount, because all he does is win championships. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out during the course of camp, as they will be expecting a lot from this position this upcoming season. One of the major reasons for optimism for the Detroit Lions is that Matthew Stafford, who's been playing some really good ball the last 3 to 4 years, is now entering his prime. And with the current upwards trek in conjunction with the comfort level he has in his receivers, the Lions will never be out of a game as long as number 9 is at the controls. And that has to give you some optimism if you're a Lions fan. Stafford has gone from maddeningly inconsistent to reliable and dependable as a starter. The secondary in Detroit is excellent. From depth at the corners to the versatility of the safeties, the Lions can match up with anyone on any given Sunday. Darius Slay is one of the best corners in the NFL. Detroit really has some good matchup corners as well that can play inside or out, like Nevin Lawson and Jamal Agnew. Jalen Tabor should blossom this year into a stellar number 2 option opposite of Slay. And Glover Quinn, just like Slay, is one of the best at his position in the NFL. Contrary to popular belief, the Lions' linebacking core is promising as well. I really like the potential here in this new defense with the personnel. They've added Christian Jones from the Chicago Bears and Devin Kennard from the New York Giants in free agency, and look for both Gerard Davis and Jalen Reeves-Maybin to continue to get better. I also wouldn't be shocked to see safety Miles Killebrew see some sub-package work as well. The athleticism that they have at the 2nd level, in my opinion, is very underrated. A cause for concern would be the defensive line. Outside of Ziggy Ansah, the Lions don't really have a threat that can also bring the heat from the outside. If someone doesn't emerge as that guy during camp, they'll have to create pressure, so to speak, which can leave you a bit vulnerable on the back end. They really need this core to step up across the board, both defensive ends and defensive tackles, in order for this unit to be successful. I would also be a bit concerned about the true commitment to the running game. It sounds great to say, hey, yeah, we're going to be committed to the run, but when it comes down to it, many go back to the devil that they already know. So if the offensive coordinator, Jim Bob Cooter, who was a holdover from the last staff, and Matt Patricia are truly committed to the ground game, then the Lions could be very dangerous this year. Now here are some quick Lions takes as they head into training camp. I believe both Luke Wilson and Jalen Tabor are ready to break out this season. I know it's weird to see a 6-year vet is ready to break out, but Wilson was mainly a reserve his entire career and lands in Detroit that is begging for a tight end to flourish. This is his opportunity. And Tabor started to progress as the season went on last year and should continue that upward trend this upcoming season and become one of the better corners in the NFC North. Keep an eye on wide receiver Teo Redding and linebacker Jalen Reeves-Maybin as guys that'll turn some heads during training camp. Redding is an undrafted free agent out of Bowling Green that has that silky smooth game that's similar to teammate Marvin Jones. And I spoke about Reeves-Maybin earlier in this video, and his athleticism will be a true asset in his defense. I'm excited to see him play this season. Rookie impact players for the Lions are Frank Ragnow and defensive back Tracy Walker. Ragnow is going to be a day one starter and impact player in a running game for the Lions, and Walker is a fellow Raging Cajun football player who can play either safety spot, and because of that versatility, he will find himself in a sub-package role pretty quickly on this defense. And from a fantasy football perspective, go ahead and grab Kenny Golladay as a receiver that you could probably get later in the draft. Guys like Golden Tate and Marvin Jones are solid, steady options that'll go earlier. But if you're looking for a late round sleeper that has high touchdown potential this year, then Golladay is your guy. The road to the Super Bowl for the Lions goes as follows. The running game has to just go from bad to average. Listen, last year the Lions averaged 76 yards a game, which was outright pitiful, and it was dead last in the NFL. If they can get that up to about 16, they'll be more than fine on offense. Defensively, the front seven has to adapt to the new scheme quickly and become much more impactful versus the run and also pressuring the quarterback. We know if that happens, they have the playmakers on the back end that can take the ball away. And finally, a third option has to emerge in the passing game to really open up this offense, whether that's Kenny Golladay, tight end Luke Wilson, or Michael Roberts, or all three. If the Lions can bring another offensive threat to the table in the passing game, they'll be very tough to beat. I have the Lions finishing 4th in the NFC North. This will be a very tough division this year in my opinion, and right now with the questions along the defensive front and the wait and see approach with the running game, I think Detroit is maybe a year away from becoming serious players in the division. You'll see small improvements in certain areas that'll point to a big time breakthrough in 2019. So that's it for our 2018 NFL season team preview. Be sure to follow me on all of our social media accounts. Also check out and subscribe on iTunes to Football Game Plan Podcast, and to find other NFL team previews for our 2018 NFL season kickoff, visit the YouTube channel at youtube.com/footballgameplan and click that subscribe button.